Upon learning of the existence of the mystical demi-humans from ancient legends, ordinary people became frightened and forced them to hide their supernatural essence. A lot of time has passed since then, and humanity had to come to terms with the fact that the magic from fairy tales turned out to be real. The demi-humans, now called demi, were able to integrate into society and gained the same rights as ordinary people. The protagonist of the anime, school teacher Tetsuo Takahashi, became seriously interested in the study of demi-humans, and soon his interest grew into an obsession. The biology teacher even began to write a dissertation on demi, whom, to his great regret, he had not yet met in his life. One day, the director of the high school where the man works introduces their new colleague, Saki Sato, to the employees. Tetsuo is surprised to discover that one of the demi-humans is hiding behind the outwardly unremarkable appearance of a mathematics teacher, a succubus or a demon of lust. He tries to get to know his new colleague better, but she suppresses all the efforts of the man, justifying her actions with the desire to control the forces of seduction that she has. The woman leaves, pointing out that Takahashi's zealous interest in succubi can be perceived by society not in favor of the man. A couple of days later, one of his new students, a vampire named Hikari Takanashi, comes running to the hero in a panic and asks Sensei to help her classmate, who suddenly became ill. The man is speechless when he discovers that the sick schoolgirl turns out to be Dalahen Kyoko Maki, a half-human, whose head is separated from the body. A moment later, another schoolgirl rushes past him, Yuki Kizukabe, a snow maiden, and then Tetsuo completely loses all contact with reality. After the initial shock of finding three demi at once wears off, the man pulls himself together and takes Kyoko to the nurse's office. The next day, after meeting Hikari's human twin sister, Himari, Tetsuo asks the vampire to tell him a little about her species in order to learn some facts for dissertation. During their conversation, the hero learns that most of the generally accepted information about the fanged undead is unreliable. Contrary to the myths and superstitions associated with vampires, the high school student likes to eat garlic, is not afraid of crosses and reflects on mirror surfaces, and also does not like flashes of bright light due to her visual acuity and does not tolerate the heat of the sun. Takanashi admits that despite the fact that the government gives blood to vampires, the thirst does not go away, and sometimes the girl dreams of biting someone. Hikari does not dare to do such an act only because he considers it sadism. The vampire then finds a common language with Kyoko, who is having difficulty communicating in class due to her physical condition. Upon learning about her friend's problem, Hikari advises her interlocutor to write a letter of thanks to Tetsuo and offers to tell him about the features of the Dalahans. Takahashi responds to the schoolgirl's message by saying that he would be happy to interview her in between classes. In Tetsuo's office, Maki talks about her rich life experience, which helped her cope with many difficult situations that came with an unusual body. The teacher learns that despite the fact that the head may be hundreds of kilometers from the neck, this will not cause any problems for the girl, since the body and limbs, even in this state, are capable of performing simple operations. After Takahashi finds it difficult for a schoolgirl to make friends with her classmates, Kyoko's teacher advises Kyoko to break the ice with her peers by taking the first step. Feeling emotional, the high school student asks Tetsuo to hug her head, saying that the teacher reminds her of her parents. After learning about Maki's sympathy for Takahashi, Hikari suggests that the two conduct an experiment, during which the teacher will take the head of the Dalahen to him for a while. Later, Kyoko confesses to her teacher that she wanted to understand what it's like to be on a date with a guy. Maki also shares her concerns with Tetsuo about Yuki's disturbing behavior, forcing the man to look into the matter. Using the information he got from the Dalahen during the walk, Takahashi asks permission from the director to wear a backpack instead of a bag for Kyoko, hoping to save the girl from the discomfort of walking. The man does not suspect that Saki has become a witness to his noble deed. 24-year-old Sato has a dream to find someone to build a romantic relationship with. Alas, her wish is not destined to come true in view of her essence of a succubus, attracting the surrounding men. She does her best to avoid any interaction with them, dressing closed and ignoring any physical contact. However, constant control over the situation and limitation negatively affect a woman, exhausting her and forcing her to fall asleep in the most inappropriate places, which very often leads to an unintentional demonstration of strength. All that remains for the heroine is to live today, cherishing the pipe dream of true mutual love, based not on her strength, but on the feelings of both partners. Everything changes when Saki notices the genuine interest and concern that comes from Tetsuo. One day, a woman discovers that her natural aphrodisiac has no effect on a man, causing Seiko to assume that Takahashi sees her as a person, and not an object fantasies. While the hero is working on his dissertation, Hikari appears in the office, wanting to learn more about the connection between drinking blood and desire. The teacher draws the schoolgirl into the study and arranges another interview for her. During the course of the conversation, it turns out that directly obtaining human blood for vampires is a very intimate and embarrassing act. For example, Takanashi is easier to kiss a mortal than to bite him. Meanwhile, Maki's math teacher who helps Maki evokes feelings of admiration in the schoolgirl, forcing her to trust and confess to Saki about her crush on Tetsuo. Unaware that Sato has no experience whatsoever in relationships with the opposite sex, a high school student asks a woman for advice on how to become more mature in Takahashi's eyes. When it turns out that heroines in Tetsuo are attracted to similar traits, Saki invites the student to experiment with appearance. At the same time, Yuki becomes very upset when she accidentally witnesses a conversation between two students discussing and condemning the demi-kyuzukabe. Gossip causes the girl to emit cold uncontrollably, which attracts the attention of Takahashi, who discovers the heroine drooping outside his office. Unsubstantiated rumors and hurtful words have a strong effect on Yuki. She thinks that her half-human nature is to blame. Tetsuo consoles the crying girl, convincing her that she is not to blame for such a careless attitude towards her peers. Realizing that Kyuzukabe is different from Maki and Hikari, who have come to terms with the fact that they do not fit into the standard society, the teacher considers how to protect the high school student and seeks advice from Saki, with whom he begins to develop a relationship. From a colleague, the hero learns that Yuki is not the first victim of bullies, who had previously mocked Demi, and also finds out that, most likely, the Snow Maiden shuns others, as she still has not come to terms with her supernatural nature. While the teachers are thinking about how to pacify the gossips over whom they have no power, Hikari, who overheard the conversation between Tetsuo and Yuki earlier, gathers all her courage into a fist to deal with the girls who offended her friend on her own. She confronts the bullies, blaming them for their misbehavior and declaring that they have no right to insult and humiliate others. Impressed by Hikari's determination, born from a promise made to Himari's sibling, the bullies apologize to Yuki after she explains that she is careful with the other students due to her nature. The next day, Tetsuo gathers the three demi and asks them to support each other. In the end, the whole meeting turns into an impromptu hug thanks to Hikari. After that, the teacher accidentally meets Himari, who still doesn't trust him. However, the high school girl's prejudice towards Takahashi changes after Tetsuo explains his interest in demi by the importance of understanding their human and supernatural principles. Yuki finally tells Tetsuo in detail about the reasons for her loneliness. It's all about her abilities. The girl confesses that once, due to the nerves caused by the transition to high school and moving, ice particles formed in her bath. This incident caused Kyuzukabe to be wary of her own powers, leading her to think that she could unintentionally freeze people. After reading various folklore stories, the hero comes up with a theory. He invites Yuki to get acquainted with some of the darkest legends about snow maidens while the girl is taking a hot foot bath. The experiment results in ice particles, which Tetsuo identifies as cold foot sweat from emotional stress, leading the man to conclude that Kyuzukabe's powers are due to her negative feelings. An unexpected discovery brings great relief to Yuki's life. Now the high school student understands the nature of the origin of her abilities. After making sure that spending time in her company does not pose a threat to others, the girl becomes more open and tries to get closer to Hikari and Kyoko. The Snow Maiden finally accepts her identity and apologizes for her early behavior to Takanashi. The trio spend the rest of the day together, eating ice cream and having fun. Takahashi happily watches the demi make friends, and Yuki makes progress in building bonds with his classmates.